Welcome, everybody, to the Nick Saban Show, presented by Alpha Insurance. Protect your cars, home, life, and business with Alpha. Coach, great to see you, sir. How you doing?
Doing great. How are you?
Doing well, having a good show. We visited with Mick Potter and one of his golfers. I'll tell you, women's golf, as well as you're a golfer yourself. The men and the women here at Alabama, they have put together quite the program.
Oh, they sure have, and they have a tremendous amount of success and had a lot of really good players. And, you know, it's always interesting to follow some of them when they, you know, get at the next level.
Sure.
And we have the one young lady that's playing in the, what's it called, the Cup over there in Europe or something.
I'm not quite sure.
Yeah. So always creates a lot of interest, I think, for our fans and all the people who support Alabama to be able to follow those folks, you know, when they leave.
Coach, you know this gentleman sitting here, Ryan Hennessey from NBC 13 in Birmingham. He'll be our media guest tonight, and he's just chomping at the bit to throw questions at you.
Yeah.
I'm ready. Let's do it. Coach, Mississippi State, obviously, and I asked you on Monday, it's a very good challenge. But when you look across the way, no Mike Leach, and I asked you a little bit about it, and your face smiled because of the friendship that you had with him. Mike Leach was an interesting coach, but off the field, what were some of your interactions that you had with him? Because some of these players said he used to watch the end of the movie scripts, and they wouldn't turn it off. There's interesting story. Do you have any of those?
Well, you know, Mike Leach was one of a kind from a personality standpoint. He's a very unique person, very intelligent person, and had a myriad of interest. Mm-hmm. You know, I would, last year when we played, and like before the game, when you go up and usually say, hey, how you doing? Your team's playing well. Shake hands. Good luck. Hope everybody stays healthy. You know, that's the normal, coach talk. I mean, he's asked me about, like, who do you use to invest, you know, in real estate? I mean, like off the wall. This is before the game. Like off the wall stuff. And really interested. And then he'll say, well, I have these guys, man, and I just don't know if they're the right guys to be doing what I want them to do. I mean, but it was completely like something that you would never, ever think of. And he was serious, and it was always intelligent. But then you go play him in the game, man, and you're seeing stuff like, wow, where did he come up with this stuff, and how are we going to defend that? So he was a very unique coach from a systematic standpoint. But interesting way that he did things and had a tremendous amount of success relative to the way a lot of other people think you need to do things. Mm-hmm. You know, and the only unique coach that I really ever had the opportunity to coach with was Jerry Glanville. You know, we won more games in 2 years in the AFC at the Houston Oilers, I think, than maybe just us in Buffalo, because that's when Buffalo went to the Super Bowl 4 years in a row. We could never beat them in Buffalo, but you know, Jerry was a great coach, but everything that you think you need to do to be successful as a coach, organizationally, we didn't do. We didn't have a notebook. I mean, who in their right mind ever heard of a coach in the NFL or college or anything else doesn't have a notebook? When I got the job there, he handed me a notebook. It was 1975 Atlanta Falcons. Now, this was 1988 or 9. All right, so, and I said, well, how am I going to learn the defense? He says, oh, we'll teach it to you, but I just don't want anybody to, you know what we do. So everybody thinks you have to have a practice plan for practice. We never had a practice plan. We never had a script. You know, you script all the plays. So like in our practice, I script the play. All right, here's the defense, here's the offensive play they're going to run, so you can anticipate what's coming up so you can coach the players if they don't do it right. Same thing on offense. You know, this is the play we're running, this is the defense they're running, this is the coverage they're running, so the quarterback should be reading left to right, whatever, middle of the field closed, open. But you know what's coming so you can anticipate it so you can coach better. We never had that.
Yeah.
We never had an install sheet. You know, like when we go to fall camp, we've got an install sheet that says, all right, this is what we're doing on offense today, this is what we're installing, this is what we're doing on defense, and this is what we're doing on special teams. And here's the special situations that we're going to make sure we cover in that particular day so the players get exposure to it. Mm-hmm. We never had that. So you didn't even know what you were going to put in like that practice.
Jeez.
And we never had, we had 3 different segments for practice plans. All right, plan A, plan B, plan C.
Right.
But it was not on paper. It was not like, okay, first 7 minutes we're doing individual, then we're doing 7-on-7, then we're doing team run. Like
that wasn't
organized.
there.
It wasn't there. He'd say, okay, today's plan A. We're going out to plan A. We'll put red 2 in. We're going to work in the red area. So there was no preparation time as a coach.
Yeah.
When you walked on the field, if you know what's coming, you can go study your book and say, okay, I know that I know this stuff, so when I go in front of the players today, I'm going to know what I'm talking about. None. You talk about making you a better coach. You had to know everything like that because you didn't know what was coming next. So, and he used to, we didn't have a script for practice, so he would just call the defenses and the offensive plays, and you just have to listen. This is the call, okay, so that's how we did it. And we won more games than anybody else. Now, we had good players, which that might be the lesson in all of it. but he was a really good coach. He was a really good teacher on the field, and the players had respect for him. He was very enthusiastic, very positive. So, but I grew up under Don James when every minute of every day was organized.
Yeah. The way you still are yourself.
And I'm still the same way, I was years ago. So it was interesting. I probably told this story before, but it's probably been 4 or 5 years ago when Coach James was in the hospital. And I called him on a Monday and talked to him. And when I was a player, we did progressives on Monday, which means you run up 10, back 20, up 30, back 40, up 50, back 60, all the way up. And I said, we got the same practice plan today we had when I was playing, and we'll be doing progressives after practice.
Yeah. There's validity to what you're saying. It's funny because I had the pleasure of working with Jerry Glanville. He was my color man on some telecasts for NASCAR.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Jerry drove NASCAR. He hit the occasional wall, but he was out there. And we would never do the same thing in rehearsal as we would do on the air. We would rehearse, and you get ready to go, and then all of a sudden, you go on the air, the red light's on. He'd ask me something totally different. And I asked him one day, I said, why are you doing that? He goes, oh, you want to make sure you know your stuff, and you never know what's going to come up. And he said, you got to keep you honest. I forget exactly how he termed it, but that's his way.
Well, I tell you something else. We'd be going in and we'd work all morning, and whether we were working on next year's opponents or doing self-scout or whatever in the off season, and we'd get ready to meet in the afternoon. He'd say, "Come on, guys, let's go." Nobody knew where we were going. Nobody knew what we were going to do. Sometimes we went to the movie, the whole staff. But sometimes we went to Houston Motor Speedway, and the next thing I know, instead of being in a meeting, I'm sitting in that car with Floyd waiting for the green light to come on and see how fast you can go down the thing. I'm like, this is our afternoon meeting.
There you go.
It made you a better coach, right? The racing?
But he's the head coach, and he made the call on that. Hey, Coach, Pee-wee is healthy again. We've missed him the last couple of weeks. But Pee-wee in Grand Bay, Alabama, is our first caller of the night, brought to you by Alabama 811 to help prevent injuries, outages, and loss of life. Call 811 or visit l811.com before you dig. It's free, it's simple, and it's the law. Pee-wee, welcome back to the Healthy. How are you?
I'm doing well, sir. Coach, how are you?
Pee-wee, let me just tell you, I've been defending you all week. Because there's a lot of stuff out there that says you are as soft as a baby's behind.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just telling you, I'm doing the best I can.
Well, we had a player that didn't make the South Florida game because he was too sick to travel. Well, that was me, Coach. It wasn't pretty, trust me.
Yeah, well, I hope you're feeling better. I was just kidding.
I know you are, but it was great. I mean, I'm feeling pretty good, and I just, we came out again at the beginning of the game and shot ourselves in the foot. Over and over.
Novel way to self-destruct.
Took at least 14 points off the board for us. And then went into halftime 1 point down. I don't know what was said, who said it, if anybody said it, if you gave them the stink eye or what. But the offensive team that came out in the second half, is not the same one that went into the locker room. Because those guys came out there, they were confident, they were secure in what they were doing, they were all on the same page, and they played outstanding. And I'd also like to congratulate Tyler Booker on winning the SEC Offensive Lineman of the Week award.
Yeah, well deserved. He really played a very good game. But, I thought, the first half, to your point, was almost a novelty in how to self-destruct in terms of some of the, mistakes that we made, things that we did and didn't do. And it cost us. We turned the ball over in the red area, get the ball 1st and 1 at the 1, and don't score a touchdown. So, but the point is to the players is why when we do things correctly, they work so well, and why when we do things incorrectly, they don't work at all. So when you evaluate what you're doing and you look in the mirror, you need to understand that, because that's how good we can be. I mean, we won 18-3 in the second half and lost 7-6 in the first half. And we dominated the line of scrimmage. The offensive line played well. We had good balance. We didn't make very many errors. I think we had one penalty that cost us maybe 4 minutes at the end, taking the air out of the ball and not giving it back to them. But this is a choice that everybody has to make. When you look in the mirror, you can say, are you happy with who you are, what you are, and what you want to be? Are you all you can be? Are you making the choices and decisions that will help you accomplish the goals that you have? And are you willing to do the things you need to do that? But we need to play the way we played in the second half and eliminate some of those costly errors that we've had 5 touchdowns called back in 4 games. That may be an NCAA record because of penalties. 5 touchdowns this season because of penalties. So, just the attention to detail that it takes to be a consistent player and to perform at the level that I know these guys want to perform, but they have to have a sense of urgency about how important it is to do things right, fundamentally, as well as how you prepare for the game. I gave them a speech about, are we preparing like we need to prepare for the game? Is there, if you come here at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and you meet with the coaches and you go through practice and you go through the meetings and watch film with the coach, and that's all you do to get ready for the game, you're not going to be ready for the game. I don't care what position you play, because there's a lot of information out there and things that when you get familiar with the opponent and then the coaches tell you what you're doing, that makes it so much easier for you to learn, because you really have a good understanding of what's being talked about and what's being taught. So all those things are areas that we need to elevate. And I think the players are trying. And I think we've had a pretty good week this week. I think the players are learning from these experiences that we have of why didn't it work, why did it work, and how can we continue to improve on the things that we need to improve on, and self-assess individually and collectively as groups so that we can go out there and execute better.
We're going to come right back, fellas, so stick around. We've got more with the coach, more with Ryan Hennessey. But first, we have to pause for these messages on the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield.
They'll roll with men wide on the near side. They cut across the middle. Jalen throws long, looking, and it's caught by Jermaine Burton. He had a man on his back, but it didn't matter as Trey Washington could do nothing out the ball, and it was a 54-yard reception by Jermaine Burton. A beautiful play.
Indeed it was. And Jalen Milroe to Jermaine Burton. Coach Nick Saban, that's has the potential for a very potent combination all season long.
Yeah, well, one of the things that Jalen does really, really well is he's accurate throwing the football, and he throws a really good long ball.
Yeah.
And Jermaine Burton has gotten behind the defense several times this year and just, made great catches, but they've also been really good throws. So, that's something we got to be able to continue to do. We got to be able to run the ball, have really good play action passes where we can take shots down the field, and then we got to be efficient on third down when we have to drop back pass.
Coach, I come to your press conferences every week, and At the beginning of the week, your team does a great job of, and you kind of talked about media training. You said, how did I do? You even asked us how we did. And I noticed you got an A+ because you look right at the camera. How important is that? And what really goes in? Because Josh and them do a really good job on the media training side of things for your players. And Jalen Milroe is one of the best.
Yeah, well, we always, I try to convince the players that, every time you have opportunity to create value for yourself, you need to use it. Because the reason that you're going to college is to create value for your future. Well, some of that is, and you guys should be able to relate to this now more than ever because of name, image, and likeness, is what is the value in your brand in terms of what kind of person are you, what kind of image do you project, what kind of character do you have, how do you do in school, and, what kind of competitive character do you have in terms of, so it's, are you motivated to accomplish goals and people look up to you for the way you do things? Are you doing the things you need to do as a person and character-wise not to diminish your brand? Right. And do you have any leadership qualities? Because that creates a lot of value in your brand. Everybody's looking for somebody who can impact somebody else in a positive way for their benefit. And you got to set a good example to be able to do that. And then when you get a chance to speak publicly, what's everybody going to say about you? I want everybody to say that I want to hire that guy someday. Right. That's what I tell all the players. When you get up there and you get interviewed and you're looking at the right thing, you got your eyes in the right place, you know how to bridge questions and talk about what you want to talk about so it really sounds like you know what you're talking about, then that's going to create value in your brand. People are going to say, hey, man, that guy's got great character. He's well-spoken. Yeah. I'd love to have him working for me someday. That's why you're going to college, and that's a great opportunity for our players, and we try to sell them on that. And then we've had some really good people, Lisa LeMaster for years, and this year, Kevin Sullivan come in, and they have seminars with the players, and they actually evaluate me too, and I probably get the worst grade of anybody.
No way. Really? You look right at the camera every time.
But I actually get a horrible grade from them in terms of, they never send anything about the players doing something wrong, but they got something I did wrong every week. But I'd probably deserve it. I don't have enough patience sometimes.
Sometimes, though, you have a message you want to get across. And, that's, I guess, an underlying factor here. Regardless of what the question is, you know how to maneuver and massage things to get around to the message that you want to convey.
Well, I think that's the key to, and we tell the players this, we make a list of things that they want to talk about and messages that they want to get out. Mm-hmm. All right, and here's some of the questions that you may get asked. Some of them may not be for you to answer, and some of them may be about things that you really don't want to answer. But if you give a short answer and bridge it into something that you want to talk about, then, because, look, no disrespect to the media, but you need us to talk. You need us to talk.
There's some nights here. I'm like,
you need for the players and coaches, and you need us to talk.
Yeah.
You don't always, no disrespect, have the best questions to ask to get us to talk. So, therefore, it doesn't matter whether we answer your question or not. We just need to talk. So why not talk about what we want to talk about? So to your point, Eli, I always have a message that I want to, before every press conference. Sometimes it's getting a message to our team, too. Sometimes it's getting a message to the fans. But there is a message that is important to talk about, to get out there, to try to promote the kind of competitive character you want to continue to promote with your team. Sometimes it's because everybody's telling them how good they are. Sometimes it's because everybody's telling them how bad they are. But there's always a message.
Exactly right. We've got a question here this questioner wants your thoughts and messages on the special teams. He said, punter James Burnip, this is Jamal in Gadsden, Alabama. He's really impressed me this fall, averaging over 48 yards a punt. Would you comment on the strength of our special teams with James and Will Reichard? Thank you, and roll tide.
Yeah, well, I think there's two things that people sometimes sort of roll into one. Is how are your specialists performing? Mm-hmm. So our specialists are performing outstanding. You mentioned Will. Will's been great with the field goals, great with the extra points. Other than, a couple mishits, last week, he's been really consistent with kickoffs, kicking them out of the end zone,
right,
which is really important. It's going to be important this week because this team leads the country in kickoff returns. So then you got the punter is doing a fantastic job. He's averaging 48 yards a punt, but he's also kicking the ball high, and we haven't had a lot of issues with return because the coverage has been good. All right, so then you got special teams. How are your special teams doing?
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, special teams made an impact on the game by setting up a score last week and blocking a punt.
Yep.
So we've only had one really good punt return this year. A lot of people are not kicking the ball to Kool-Aid. They're sort of spraying the ball, so it's harder to set up returns. But how we have to improve that part of our game. We need to improve kickoff return. We haven't had a lot of opportunities, but the ones we had, we haven't been really good at executing. So you got two factors. You got the specialists are doing great. I'd say our special teams, there's areas that we can improve. And we've been in the top 2 or 3 in special teams when you rank everything together pretty consistently for many, many years. And I don't think we're far off of that. I just think there's areas that we need to improve.
Jamal, thank you for your question. And you can do like Jamal did. He reads Nick Saban's information and column and all sorts of special items on Alabama.com, AL.com. Check it out, and you can submit your questions to be heard here on the show. Ryan?
Coach, I want to say Thursdays with Pat McAfee is probably my favorite segment now. You light up when you talk to Pat McAfee, and today was a really good one I watched, so I didn't double up on questions. You talked about your speeches to the media and how you kind of talk to people throughout the week. Did you say sports psychologists and stuff? People don't realize what's really in your program. Can you touch on that a little bit more? I thought that was fascinating. Sports psychologists that you talk to try to get your message, because you can't think of every speech that you have on a Monday or a Friday.
Well, I think that, we're all trying to impact and affect human behavior, individually and collectively on your team. But the individuals on your team kind of make the team what it is. So there's individual messaging that you're trying to get across to impact players, to help them improve and create more value for themselves and to help the team. But you also have a message that the entire team needs to sort of have a reason to motivate themselves to be able to play a specific game or whatever. And it's really, really hard. So I've been here for however many years. So how many of these games have we played and how many speeches have I had to give? And most of the time it's on Monday and Friday that I give these speeches. So that's twice a week for all these games. So it's kind of hard you're almost saying the same thing. You're trying to emphasize the same thing, but you're trying to find different ways to get it across to the players where, one message may impact a third of the group, another way it would impact another third, and you're actually trying to get everybody on the team to be able to resonate on what you're trying to say. So to have people who have experience in impacting and affecting human behavior is really, really important. It's helped me as a coach. It's helped me deal with individual players. It's helped me have a better way to message, to players with new ideas in terms of things that you want to emphasize. I mean, basically, in any sport, it comes down to your ability to execute with consistency. Now, we could talk about 100 things that impact that, but part of it is your mindset. I mean, for all of us in this room, like I said, look in the mirror. I mean, what's your mindset every day relative to what you want to accomplish and what you want to do, and how much discipline do you have to see that through every day? I mean, we all could say that. Well, it's no different for players. Just because they have athletic ability to play at Alabama doesn't mean they're any different than you and me and anybody else in terms of what is their mindset to try to be and accomplish what they can accomplish. So, basically, we're all have the human condition, which the human condition is to survive. Okay, so we just want to be comfortable. And we're kind of taught that, and our society teaches us that. We tell a guy, if you sell 10 cars this month, you get to go to the Bahamas. Well, he's not going to go sell 20. He's going to sell 10, go and sit in his chair and eat Tostitos and drink beer and say, want a trip to the Bahamas. He's not going to try to win the championship and sell more cars than anybody ever sold. That's normal. Okay, that's normal. If we have our football players thinking like that, we're not going to win very many games. But they still are human. They still have the human condition. They want to do what they have to do to get by. So our challenge is to get them from here to now. How can we get you to be the best that you can be? So I call that the capability gap. All right, what are you capable of doing versus what are you really doing and what are you accomplishing? And what do you need to do it? And but people think that just because somebody has talent and ability, they have this championship attitude to be the best that they can be. And that's not always the case. And there's a lot of people that have ability that need to learn how to challenge themselves to be the best that they can be. And in our case, and one of the things that we fight, quite a bit, because there's a lot of social media, a lot of these kids now get a lot of their positive and self gratification from external factors, and they're kind of geared that way. So to try to get them to be intrinsically motivated, and they've always been better than everybody else. So there's never been this sense of urgency that they need to do things and pay attention to detail and do the little things right. So to change that mindset, I mean, having people who understand human behavior and can direct. And, we have these people talk to the players. We have them interview every player. Wow. And they tell us how we need to coach a guy so that we may be able to get him to that point a little more quickly because of his personality type or whatever. So if you have an obsessive-compulsive personality guy who really is driven, perfectionist, everything's got to be a certain way in his room, but that's the way he plays and that's the way he does things, you got to coach that guy different than some guy who has all kind of ability and is casual, about everything that he does, and just kind of almost lazy in terms of his effort and his ability to perform. So those two guys need to be treated entirely different. They have a different mindset, but they need to be coached differently. So if you don't have somebody who is an expert in human behavior trying to help you through all that, I'm not smart enough. I promise you, I'm not smart enough. And nobody probably where I came from in West Virginia is smart enough to be able to figure all that out. All right, so that's something that has been very, very helpful to us through the years.
Right. Nick Saban is with us, so too Ryan Hennessey from NBC 13. We're coming right back. More of the show after these messages on the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield.
So the Crimson Tide now with Oots in the left slot. Play action. Milroe looks long, has a man there. Touchdown, Alabama!
Jalen Milroe continuing to play awfully well. 6 touchdown passes, couple of touchdown runs already this season. As we welcome you back to the Nick Saban Show. Hey, Coach, and the Nick Saban Show, presented by Alpha Insurance. Protect your car's home, life, and business with Alpha. And this segment of the Nick Saban Show is also brought to you by Coca-Cola Zero Sugar. With zero sugar and refreshingly delicious, is Coca-Cola Zero Sugar the best Coke ever? Well, find out for yourself. We welcome you back to Baumhauer's here in Tuscaloosa. And, Coach, standing to your right, a gentleman with a question for you. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Hey, Coach, how are you?
Good. How about yourself?
I'm doing great.
Great.
In South Florida, your team experienced some unexpected delays with lightning and rain. I was just curious as to how you prepare the players to adjust for that and how that can play into the momentum of the game.
Right. Well, I actually think it was a good thing for us in this particular game because we weren't playing great. But in preparation for the game, we always have wet ball practice. All right, so we anticipated that there was a 50-50 chance that we would get some kind of a thunderstorm or some kind of a rainstorm during the course of the game. And we knew that several days in advance. But in the normal course of things, we always have wet ball practice. So we're going to take a whole period, and the players are playing with the wet ball. Quarterback's got to throw it, receivers got to catch it, runners got to hold on to it. So that's a part of the preparation. We tell the players that we're going to have bad weather conditions, but they're used to it. because they practiced it all week. Even though you can't generate rain for them, you can, the ball was the problem. And, I always emphasize to our players that, a lot of people think, wow, it's going to really be hard to play offense because it's wet. It's really harder to play defense when the field's bad because you don't know where you're going. You have to redirect, change direction. Offensive players actually know where they're going. So you got to prepare both sides, for that. But the way we try to take our team, we had a big rain delay when in Missouri. I don't know what year it was. Eddie Lacy was still playing here then.
A number of years ago.
Yeah, it's been several years ago. But and we make the players come in just like it's halftime. And one of the things that I emphasize to them is we take a second set of clothes for all of our players, uniform. Because, once you get soaking wet and your pads get wet, man, that's heavy. So you're not going to be able to perform as well if you're all wet. So we give them an opportunity to change and put dry clothes on, and then we sit them down just like it's halftime. And we go through every play, every adjustment, everything that we need to do and everything that we're going to do. So they're occupied. They're not just sitting around like, what's happening next. You're trying to keep them involved. And then I talk to them just like we're going out after halftime or whatever when we go back out and take the field. So, but I actually think that in that particular game, because we were flat as a pancake, which is really my fault for whatever reasons not to be able to get them ready to play in that situation. But we actually played better after the rain delay. Maybe it was some of the adjustments that we made, but I think it was also everybody kind of realized that, hey, this is not going to be easy, so we need to get ourselves together here.
Coach, special being up here. I'm a young journalist in the industry, but to be sitting next to the three of you guys, Eli, to be back here. There's a lot of really good color analysts and play-by-play analysts, but Eli's one of the best. And to have him back, it's got to be special for you. What do you think about him back? And do you ever, look at his calls and do you get a chance to see those? Because they're pretty special. We like to use them on the news, even though it's the radio side.
But Eli is like a part of the tradition of Alabama football, Alabama athletics, because you expect that voice to be there.
Right.
Like Vince Scully or one of those guys that was with whoever they were with for years and years and years. It's just the voice of, and that's the expectation, and that's what you expect to see. No different than what does everybody expect to see when the band takes the field, or the team takes the field. Those are all parts of the tradition that make Alabama football what it is. And Eli's voice has been a part of that for a long, long time. And I know how much everybody is happy that he's back, was disappointed that he ever had to go through what he had to go through. And it's a part of it, and it's a part of the tradition, and I love it. I love him. I love the fact that he's back, and I hope that he can stay with us for many years to come.
From your mouth to God's ears. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Let's go to the phones. Adam in Milledgeville, Georgia. Hello, Adam.
Hi, Coach. How are you?
Good, Adam. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks. Coach, I was just wondering, how would you say that you've changed as a coach and as a person since, say, your time at Toledo, Michigan State, and LSU?
Wow, I think probably quite a bit. I think that when I played and when I first started coaching, I was a lot more result-oriented. Everything was about winning. That's all I talked about was winning. Never really taught anybody how to win. And I've told the story many times in 1998 when we played Ohio State, so I won't bore everybody with that. But I thought we had no chance in the game. Ohio State was number one for a long, long time. We were 4-5 or something. It was like the 10th game of the season. And I actually thought I might get fired at the end of the year. So, I talked to our sports psychiatry guy, and he said, hey, just tell the players to play one play at a time. Don't look at the scoreboard. Do the best they can one play at a time. Nothing else matters. Scoreboard doesn't matter. Winning or losing doesn't matter. Nothing matters. So that's how we played. And we actually beat the number one team in the country at Ohio State. I think it was like 28-25 or something. And that's how the players played. They competed in the game. They had fun. They didn't look at the scoreboard. They didn't worry about winning. They didn't worry about losing. I didn't worry about winning. I didn't worry about losing, and we won. Mm-hmm. So that was a lesson to me, that focusing on process, focusing on what it takes to win, and not talking so much about winning and putting signs up about winning the championship. Like there's no signs. There's never been a sign up in all the years we've been here that says win the SEC. There's not a sign up in our building that says win the national championship. Everything's about being a champion, doing the things you need to do to be the best you can be, so that we have the best opportunity to be able to do those things. And we've had a lot of good players. We have a lot of good coaches, and they've all contributed to being able to do this, fairly successfully. And we obviously have our challenges with this team. I believe in this team, and we got to do a better job with this team so that we can play more consistently, and everybody's working hard to try to do that.
Coach Nick Saban is with us, so too Ryan Hennessey from NBC 13 in Birmingham. We're going to be continuing with more of the show, and don't forget, the Nick Saban Show is being brought to you by Alpha Insurance. Protect your cars, home, life, and business with Alpha. Back in a moment on the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield.
Milrose snaps it, hands to Jace. Jace stumbles, he's on his feet, retains his balance, carries it in. Touchdown, Alabama! Touchdown, Alabama. Robbie Oots with a block. And the run-in by Jace McClellan, who I don't quite know how he didn't lose his footing, but that's why he's there and I'm up here.
Welcome back, everybody. And Coach, I think that's a fair statement when I was talking about Jace McClellan, who stumbled and never did lose his footing. And I said, that's why he's down here and I'm up here. It's amazing watching the ability that these players of today have.
Yeah, well, Jace has had a great year for us. He's played really well. He's a great all-around player. He's a good pass receiver. He's a good pass blocker. He's smart. He does a really good job of pressing holes and getting at the right place. It was a really, really good run, like 10-yard touchdown run he made Saturday.
Yep.
Down on the student end. Guy's a really good player, and we just got to get our players to continue to understand, and I've said this before, the importance of doing the little things right.
Yeah.
That is the number one thing. I mean, hands inside when you're blocking so we don't get holding calls. It's going to be important for guys to get their second step on the ground in the offensive line, because these guys are going to slant and stunt and blitz every down. So you got to take small steps so you can, gather people up. All right, and it's if you don't do things the right way, then bad things happen, and that's been pretty consistent for us. And we've done a lot of good things. All right, and I believe in this team. But we have to have that sense of urgency to do the little things right if we're going to be able to have the kind of success that we're capable of having, to be honest with you.
Is that what aggravates you or others in your position the most, those penalties that just didn't need to happen?
Yeah, well, I think that, as a coach, you want your team to play with great discipline.
Sure.
You want guys to go out there and execute, because that's what you're working for every day. You're working to help them to play to the maximum full potential that they can play to. And you feel like you're failing when guys actually go out there and don't do things the way they're supposed to do them, the way you're coaching them to do them, the way you're trying to teach them to do it for their benefit so that they can create value for themselves, but also for the team's benefit. And that part is not frustrating. It just makes you sort of say, I'm going to keep challenging myself to fight through this in a way that we're going to get through to these guys so that we can get guys to do it the right way. And in some cases, where you have guys that don't seem to ever respond and be able to do it the right way, there's a point in time where you got to say, we need to play somebody else.
Yeah.
We need to play somebody else. I mean, it's not fair to other guys on the team who are doing it correctly. Right. If you don't reinforce the fact that this guy's making too many mental errors or mental mistakes or not doing things the right way. So That's always the challenge as a coach. But that's really what I want for every player on our team. I want them to have a chance to be more successful. And you feel like you're failing them when you're not getting across to them what you want to get across to them so that they can create that kind of value.
Yeah. Coach, the clock on the wall regretfully says we're almost out of time, so it is now time for your final word, presented each week by Mercedes-Benz. Mercedes-Benz, the vehicles are all electric. The feeling is all Mercedes.
Yeah, well, I really think this is a big game for us. I think this is a big challenge for us, being on the road. This is a tough place to play, always a tough place to play. And this is a very physical, tough, well-coached team. It's not the team that you saw before in terms of the offense. They're going to run the ball. They got a good back. You know, they got some good receivers. The quarterback's started 38 games or whatever and is a really, really good player. They're very aggressive on defense. This is a very challenging preparation for us, and it's a very challenging game for us. And we need to continue to progress as a team if we're going to have success in this game. And, you know, I ask everybody today what I said earlier. You know, everybody got to look in the mirror. And you got to say, am I doing the things that I want to do to create the value for myself and our team that I'm capable of doing? So what can we do to continue to improve and do better? I've liked the attitude of our team this week in practice, and I'm excited about the challenge, and I'm excited about the opportunity that this team has to continue to grow and get better as a group.
Coach, you mentioned Will Rogers, not by name, but he is the quarterback from Mississippi State. The most completions in SEC history. What makes him so difficult to deal with?
Well, you know, he's very accurate with the ball. He's very smart. He gets the ball out of his hand, you know, quickly. Knows the offense really well, and he's played in a passing system. You know, we talked about Mike Leach earlier,
right?
But he played in a passing system, so, you know, he's like having a coach on the field when it comes to the passing game. But they have a lot more balance on their team this year, you know, because they will run the ball. They have more diversity in personnel groups. It's more challenging to prepare for them because of all the different people they use and how they use them. And he operates well on all those systems. So that's why this makes this a real challenging game.
Ryan Hennessey, great to see you, sir. Thank you for coming by and joining us here tonight.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Ryan. Thank you
fun.
so much.
Yes,
sir.
Coach, you take care. Travel safe. We'll see you next week.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate y'all. Thanks.
Coach Nick Saban here at Baumhauer's Victory Grill in Tuscaloosa. The Nick Saban Show, presented by Alpha Insurance. Protect your cars, home, life, and business with Alpha. Get a quote or find a local agent at alphainsurance.com.